Have you ever had days where it feels like your energy levels are just on a roller coaster? You might feel really energized in the morning, and then by mid morning, you're a little bit hungry. So you eat something and you feel a little better. And then the afternoon hits, and suddenly you crash. You can't think straight, you're irritable, and it feels like sugar or caffeine is really the only way to keep going to get through the rest of the day. If that sounds familiar, then your body might be dealing with blood sugar swings. And those swings can play a really big role in fatigue. So let's talk about it.
Welcome to Chronic Illness Moms. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon while raising neurodivergent kids, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have lived with autoimmune disease and flare-ups that made everyday life feel harder than it should. After years of pushing through and burning out, I learned how much stress, poor sleep, and nervous system overload were driving my symptoms. Everything changed when I started building small, realistic habits that actually supported my body instead of fighting it. In this podcast, you'll learn simple habits that help you to feel better. So pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time.
So this is something that I honestly have been dealing with since I was probably an adolescent. I would have times where my energy just felt completely unpredictable. I would eat breakfast, but then I might feel hungry fairly quickly again, and I would make it to the afternoon and suddenly it would feel like I had hit a wall, or I would be feeling perfectly fine, energized, all that, and then out of nowhere, it would hit. I would start to feel shaky. I couldn't think straight. I felt really irritable. I would start craving sugar or caffeine or something just to keep going. And for a long time, I just thought this was a normal thing. This is just how my body functions and how it works. But what I realized is that my blood sugar was constantly spiking and then crashing. And every time it crashed, my body was responding like I was under stress because my body was under stress. And that meant that my cortisol was up. It meant that I was having more fatigue. It meant that I couldn't think straight. My energy levels were not staying steady or honestly even consistent. And this is something that I love to help women work through because helping you find out simple ways to stabilize your blood sugar and your energy so that you're not riding this emotional and blood sugar roller coaster all day can make a huge impact in helping you to feel your best, to feel energized, to keep up with your kids, to do all of the stuff that you need to do to get done. So if you feel like that's something you've been struggling with, you can head to ashleybraden.com/coaching, or I will leave the link down in the show notes below where you can learn more. Okay, so on Monday, on our last episode, we talked about deep sleep and why this restorative sleep matters so much for healing and just for feeling better. So today I want to talk about something else that often interrupts both your energy levels and then also your sleep. And I did touch a little bit on blood sugar in sleep on our last episode, but let's dig into it a little bit deeper and not only how it can impact you during the day, but also at night. Because whenever your blood sugar is constantly spiking and then crashing, it does put your body under a lot of stress. You know, stress can show up in various areas. That's where you might be feeling more sugar cravings. You might be sleeping poorly. You might be having a hard time winding down to go to sleep. You might be feeling more irritable. And we talked about coming out of that stress state in order to get into a really relaxed state to be able to fall asleep quickly and to get into that deep sleep cycle. And if you think about it, if your blood sugar is spiking and crashing even a couple times a day, that is chronically stressing your body out. So we're going to talk about what are some things that maybe blood sugar swings look like that you've never really thought about. Also, why they can make fatigue a little bit worse, and then a few simple ways that you can stabilize your energy and your blood sugar throughout the day. So let's dig into it. The first thing is, what will a blood sugar swing feel like? So you might recognize a lot of these signs, honestly. You might start to feel hungry again really quickly. It might come out of nowhere where you're just ravenous. You're absolutely hungry. You might also start to notice that certain meals leave you feeling just really tired and drained and honestly what I describe as gross afterwards. You might notice after maybe a couple of hours after eating, you start to feel really shaky, kind of like I mentioned earlier, shaky, you're irritable, you feel like you can't think straight, you want to just consume as much sugar as possible. Another thing you might notice is that you notice a big energy crash in the afternoon or maybe a couple of hours after a meal. And a lot of times, like I mentioned, those crashes are going to come with a strong craving for sugar or caffeine, and sometimes both. If this sounds familiar to you, you might be riding what I like to call the blood sugar roller coaster. And I am well versed with it because I rode that roller coaster for so many years and really didn't realize how much of an impact it was having on my everyday life. And even now, if I'm really bad, I've mentioned this before, I'm bad. I forget to eat. It's just not a priority to me, eating. And so even now, it's interesting if I am not being consistent with my protein and I do have a blood sugar crash, how I will realize, 30 minutes even leading up to it, I could feel it coming on. I just wasn't really paying attention because I was busy doing other stuff. But I would start to feel a little bit more irritable. I would start to feel like, man, I can't think straight. Why can I not think of that word? Or why can I not think of what I was doing? Why am I feeling really cranky with my kids now? And it was because my blood sugar was starting to crash. So if we can begin to become really familiar with the signs, that's one great starting point, because we can then figure out how can I get in the moment, how can I get my blood sugar balanced again so I can get back to the baseline. And then from there, once we're feeling like ourselves again, what can we figure out, or how can we figure out what caused it to spike and then crash in the first place? So let's talk a little bit about what is actually happening. When you eat foods that raise your blood sugar really quickly, especially things like carbs and also sugars, things like that, the body is going to release insulin to help to bring that sugar down. But sometimes your blood sugar, it spikes really high and then it drops too quickly afterwards. And when that happens, it's going to release stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline to bring your blood sugar back up. And also because, again, this is a stress response of your body. Your body knows that you need to have a stable blood sugar in order to function properly. And so that's whenever a lot of times, whenever it crashes and then we have that adrenaline spike and the cortisol's up, that's when we start to feel that shaky, tired, foggy, cranky, could eat everything and anything. And what happens a lot of times is, and this is a cycle I fell into, especially as a teen, is my blood sugar, I didn't realize I wasn't eating like good protein and things that would blunt a blood sugar spike. And I was eating, sweets, refined carbs, things like that. And so my blood sugar would spike, then it would crash. And what I would do whenever it would crash was think, oh my goodness, I've got to get it up quickly. So I would eat something sweet again to quickly get it up. And then a couple hours later, it's crashing again. And the cycle repeats: spike, crash, and just imagine the amount of stress that it is putting on your body as well, and just really draining you. So we know with every spike and crash, like I said, it's releasing those stress hormones. And when this is happening over and over and over again, your body is just repeatedly getting the signal that you are not safe, that it is not safe, that you are not going to give it the nutrition and the stability that it needs to function every single day. And that's going to contribute to anxiety, not sleeping well, chronic fatigue, inflammation, all of these things, which of course, like I mentioned, that connects back to that deep sleep episode that we talked about on Monday. But because we know that unstable blood sugar can disrupt your sleep too, especially if it's crashing in the middle of the night. And if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it, because I did dig into that. So let's talk about what are some ways, if you see in yourself, okay, I can see that this is happening. Maybe you are honestly living in the kind of the cycle that I was as a teenager, where you don't really realize that you are not eating the foods that would help to blunt, like even if you were going to have a carb, having healthy fats and protein with it to help to blunt that blood sugar spike can make a big impact on not having that crash. So maybe you're realizing, okay, I'm a busy mom and I'm just shoveling in the leftover snacks from the kids and I'm not taking care to make sure that I'm getting the appropriate nutrients that I need in order to stabilize my blood sugar. So what can I do now so that I'm not riding this spike crash roller coaster? Well, the first thing would be to start the day with protein, first and foremost. I aim for 30 to 40 grams of protein in the morning. That is a really good start, like a foundational point to help to keep your blood sugar stable and start the day with stable blood sugar that also carries on throughout the day. Of course, this can look like a lot of different things. Maybe you're doing some kind of a protein drink. Maybe you have eggs and bacon. I find that I have to add, if I'm going to get to that 30 or 40 gram mark, I have to add like either protein powder or protein drink, collagen to my coffee, something else, because I'm just not super hungry when I wake up for breakfast. And so for me to hit that mark, I need to add some additional stuff. Another great way would be adding cottage cheese or something like that. And I've done that before, where I add cottage cheese into scrambled eggs because it does increase the protein count there. But just making sure you're really focusing heavily on especially breakfast, but consistently getting protein throughout your day, that is really, really great at helping to blunt any kind of blood sugar spike. The other thing would, and I mentioned this earlier, the second thing you can do is if you're going to eat carbs, first off, can we focus on healthier carbs, not the refined starchy carbs? But if you're going to eat them, at least pair it with protein and a healthy fat. So instead of just eating carbs by themselves, pairing it with, of course, the protein and the fat, either or both, is going to slow down that blood sugar rise. So this could look like if you're going to have toast, have eggs and bacon with it, and maybe you do a little bit of grass-fed butter on the toast as well. It could look like if you're going to have an apple, maybe you have peanut butter and like a collagen tea or coffee or something like that, just to help to increase the amount of protein that you're getting. Okay, the third thing, and this is the one I struggle with the most, is try not to skip meals. I mentioned earlier, I don't think about eating. Sometimes my husband has to bring me food or I just won't. It just doesn't cross my mind. So often, and I think this is really common. We get busy. We're taking care of the kids. We're doing stuff around the house and we just forget to eat. So of course, if you're not giving your body the nutrition that it needs, you're going to be more likely to experience those blood sugar crashes, especially later in the day. If we haven't given our body fuel as we're starting the day and going about things, and it kind of gets to the later point of the day, that might be where you notice that energy dip and the crash and all of that. So trying to at least consistently eat meals. And if you're like me and you just struggle to eat consistently, when you do eat, being really intentional about the carbs, about the carbs, what kind of carbs are you eating, but then also are you getting a good amount of protein and also healthy fats with it to make the most out of the times when you are eating. Okay, the fourth thing you can do is to make sure you're moving after meals. This could be light movement. It could be going on a short walk. It could be standing up and doing some cleaning at your house. It could be doing 20 squats or 20 lunges or something like that. Anything like that, any kind of movement where you are using and activating your muscles, it is going to help your body to regulate your blood sugar better. Okay, and then of course the fifth thing would be making sure you're eating balanced meals, which we've really touched on this multiple times, but meals that are including fiber, healthy fats, and then protein. Those are the things that are going to be more likely to keep your blood sugar more stable. And then of course, when your blood sugar is stable, your energy is oftentimes going to feel more stable too. You will notice that you aren't having those little episodes of feeling irritable and cranky and all of that as well whenever you are consistently having that stable blood sugar. So if you have been feeling like your energy just crashes randomly or consistently throughout the day, then I would like you to try just one simple experiment this week. I want you to focus on adding protein to your breakfast. You know, for many people, just making that one change can make a pretty big difference in your energy levels throughout the day and not having that major crash. So if you've been feeling like your energy is just really unpredictable, then making sure you're keeping your blood sugar balanced might be one of those missing pieces. So that is all for this episode. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll see you back next time.
Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.